Welcome to Sweat Equity. I'm your host, Juliana Vitolo, and in this monthly podcast series, I sit down with founders who are in the thick of it. They've raised capital, they've found product market fit, and fundamentally, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. In this episode, I spoke with Lauren Makler, the CEO and founder of Cofertility, a health tech startup that's aiming to improve access to both egg freezing and egg donation. Lauren is a true inspiration, and she has a deeply personal connection to the complications of the fertility journey that she's seeking to solve. Hey everyone, thanks for joining Sweat Equity. I'm your host, Juliana Vitolo, and I'm joined here today by the CEO and founder of Cofertility, Lauren Makler. Thank you so much for hosting us in your beautiful house.
Oh, thanks for coming.
I wish I could say it's sunny Los Angeles.
No, normally it is. It's June gloom.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah.
Every time I'm in LA, by the way, it's like
you bring it with you.
Yeah,
no, it's usually beautiful. But yeah, this is where the magic happens. It's the beauty of working remote.
I've known Lauren for a couple years now.
Yeah.
I used to work at Initialized Capital, and we led her seed. So we've known each other for some time, and I am so grateful that she's not only hosting us in her house, but has agreed to sit down with me today to chat all things Cofertility.
Totally.
So I think a great place to start, actually, kind of level set, give a high level description of what the company is, what you guys are all about, the mission, everything that someone would want to know if they're coming in cold and don't know anything about Cofertility.
So at Cofertility, we offer women the opportunity to freeze their eggs for free when they donate half of the eggs retrieved to intended parents that can't otherwise conceive. So we are both making egg freezing more accessible and egg donation less transactional at the same time. What we found is that we know the best time to freeze your eggs is typically when you can least afford it and when no one's talking to you about it, right? The younger you are, the more fertile, essentially, right? Like the greater your egg quantity, the greater your egg quality. And that's the opportunity to, take advantage of that. And yet cost is the number one barrier for most women. And then on the other side, we have intended parents who, more and more people are choosing to start their families later. And as such, they really struggle to conceive with fertility challenges, maybe age-related diminished ovarian reserve, or more same-sex couples are growing their family through third-party reproduction, and they need the help of an egg donor to have a baby. And we knew that, it's incredibly transactional. If you look at what the traditional egg donation looks like, donors are getting paid anywhere from $10,000 to, we heard last week, $250,000 in cash compensation to freeze their eggs. And that's actually off-putting to most women that intended parents would be interested in getting eggs from. And is obviously off-putting to intended parents because it's cost prohibitive. It also really feels unfair that someone can get more in cash compensation depending on their heritage or their education. And that's really challenging for intended parents. So there's a major lack of diversity amongst egg donors. And there's a huge lack of educated and really ambitious donors in the traditional egg donation space. And so we found that by bringing to bear this solution that we call egg sharing, we're really solving the issue on both sides. So with Cofertility, since we launched our split program that we pitched you in the end of 2021, we brought that to life. And what we found is that it works. I remember the biggest question the seed investors had was will women do this? Yeah. And you were like, yeah, I think so. For sure they will. And we had data, we had done a survey to support that hypothesis. And the answer is a huge resounding yes. Our donors, 55% of them have a graduate degree or higher. They are super ambitious, really educated, just prioritizing other things in their life that maybe aren't having a child yet, right? And 50% of them identify as women of color. So they are really diverse, and it's just delivering on what intended parents are really looking for in an egg donor.
Wow, that's incredible. And so talk to me about the fact that you guys are kind of targeting this class of women who don't, what are the typical age ranges?
Yeah.
Because something you said really impacted me. I think knowing that most women aren't thinking about it until it's past their peak fertility or the time when they actually should be freezing their eggs, how do you address that?
Yeah.
Or is it educating earlier? Or what do you notice?
What's interesting is that has changed, right? So there was actually a study done last year that said 3 in 5 Gen Z women are concerned about their fertility.
Wow.
So that's women, I think it's 18 to 28 today, are already concerned about their fertility. And I attribute that to millennials, you're welcome, right? And even Gen X, right? For talking about our challenges more and for bringing it out on social media and, telling your coworkers, hey, I had a miscarriage, right? Like, this is hard, right? It is not always, rainbows and butterflies when you're trying to have a baby. And I think that has made Gen Z much more aware than previous generations. And so I think I thought that we'd have to do a lot of educating about the benefits of egg freezing. And I am pleasantly surprised that we don't need to do as much of that as I thought. Right? I think more and more women understand, like, oh, egg freezing, right? Like, this is not an insurance policy, not a guarantee, but the people who do freeze eggs have more of an opportunity to have children later in life than people who don't, right? Like, that's just the way that it works. They might need education about how egg freezing works or what the process is like, but they don't really need it on the, like, hey, you should really do this. Right?
Yeah. At what age are people typically thinking about this?
So I think we find that they're really starting to think about it in their mid-20s, late 20s, and early 30s. To qualify for our SPLIT program, someone does need to meet the clinical criteria that's set forth by ASRM, the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, to donate. And so that requirement says that she must be between the ages of 21 and 34, just because after 34, you become less fertile, right? The egg quality goes down. And so it's not necessarily fair to the intended parent to work with a donor that's over the age of 34. But I think like really mid to late 20s is when we're starting to have that conversation.
Okay. Makes sense. And then earlier you said you had evaluated or kind of sanity check that there was market demand for a solution like this. So can you talk more about how you went through that process?
This is something that, like, Hallie, my co-founder, she is very much like, I have an idea, let's go do it. And I love that about her. And in so many ways, that quality has been something I've benefited from. My inclination is like, let me see the data first. Yeah. Like, let me just like gut check this before I jump. And so I think the two of us combined really were exactly what we needed to like decide to go forward here. But we basically designed a survey that asked a number of questions about this age group and their understanding of egg freezing, what challenges were preventing them from moving forward with it, and whether or not egg sharing was something that appealed to them, how they would feel about it. And we asked a handful of influencers on Instagram to like we built a type form, asked them to post it in their Instagram stories, and within 24 hours, we had, I think, almost 1,000 responses.
Wow.
And 66% of women were interested in egg sharing. I, kept refreshing it. I thought it was broken. It's like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it.
More than you even expected.
Way more. I literally thought it was broken. I did not believe it. And then when I saw some of the qualitative responses and I saw that, cost is the number one barrier, I believed it. And I realized that Gen Z especially believes that anyone who wants to be a parent deserves to be a parent. And they believe in the sort of dynamic ways that families are built today. And the idea of doing service is very compelling. And, 20% of Gen Z are members of the LGBTQ community, right? So they too may need the help of a third party to have a baby. So they are very open and interested and even excited to help someone else grow their family and to be a part of that. And when we take anonymity out of egg donation, which is a lie anyway, right? You cannot have any donation be anonymous in a time when DNA testing is something you can buy at a drugstore online, right?
Right.
And when we address that early on, and intended parents and donors have the option and the opportunity to meet each other, then you're really taking the stigma out of donation, right? And you're making it feel like something that people are a lot more open-minded about.
Why does this stigma exist for egg donation but not sperm donation, which is honestly very mainstream these days? Like, it's actually amazing to me.
Yeah.
There's no stigma behind it, at least not to the same
I
extent.
think that there's a few things. I think women feel a different sort of attachment or perceived attachment, right? I think that's part of it. I think there's also the like ease with which a man can donate sperm.
True.
Is so, I mean, they literally can pop into a room for 10 minutes and leave.
Right.
Whereas a woman has to undergo 10 to 14 days of shots and then go under anesthesia to do an egg retrieval, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the actual work is a lot more. But I think that like women are seen as like giving something up, whereas men are seen as giving something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's just yet another like double standard that exists for men and women. I think that part of it is, I think women fear the idea of what if, and this is like the number one stigma that we hear, what if I'm walking down the street one day and I see someone who looks like me? Will I wonder if that's the offspring that was born from this donation, right? And sort of like akin to like a closed adoption, right? Or without knowing. But what we feel is that if we are not doing an honest donation and you have the opportunity to know the family and to opt into this and say, yes, those are the intended parents that I want to participate in this with, then they have a match meeting, and they, you know, in some cases they send photos back and forth. Or we just last week, one of our donors met the baby that was born from her donation, and she was like so excited and so moved, and she will know that child over time. Mm-hmm. And when she has kids someday, they will know that she donated eggs. And so this idea that she could be walking down the street and not recognize that child is like just a thing of the past. That is a thing of anonymity, which is just something we want to move away from in general.
So do you think more people are okay with that concept of like knowingly donating, knowing that they will know a future offspring that, you know, is genetically related to them, that has become increasingly okay with people?
Yeah, they are, I think, and we believe in what's called a mutual match.
Okay. In
the sense that when an intended parent wants to match with a donor, we call them split members, but when they want to match, she gets information about them to the extent that both sides are comfortable. And if she doesn't feel the match is right for her, she can decline the match. And I think there's so much power in that, right? Like, she should have a say where her eggs go, right? Yeah. Traditional egg donation or egg banks, like, you donate your eggs and you're like, I don't know who they're going to. So if you do a cycle and 30 eggs are retrieved, those eggs are separated into lots of 6. That means that from one cycle, those 30 eggs can go to 5 families. Wow. And then they're asking you to do it 5 more times. And so you could have eggs going to 25 families and have no idea who those kids are or anything about them. And so your children will have biological half-siblings. With Cofertility, we're saying, hey, meet this nice family, couple. Maybe they have 1 kid, maybe they have no kids, maybe they've been trying for 10 years. Like, you have the opportunity to meet them over Zoom or to email with them or whatever. And if you feel good about this donation, and if these are people that potentially you want to know and maybe even know for the rest of your life or exchange contacts with, like, then only say yes. It should be a full body, like, yes, this is something I want to do, and these are the people I want to do it with. Yeah. And I think that like choice and that opt-in is something that just gives people more power over this experience. And it's very rare that someone says like, I don't feel good about that match. And I'll give you an example because I'm sure that's your next question. Like, why would someone say no? Yeah. I'm thinking of one match where the intended parents or people who like very openly live a nomadic lifestyle. So they spend like a couple months of every year in Australia and a couple months in Europe, and then they're like in different parts of the US visiting family. And the split member they matched with was like, I think that's like really cool for them, but like I can't imagine what that's like growing up. Like I think that could be really hard on a kid. Like, okay. And so she matched with another set of intended parents that she was excited about. And then we found another split member who was like, how cool is that? It's like, what a way to grow up.
Yeah.
Right? And what I realized with that is like something my mom used to say about dating, actually, which is like every pot has a cover. Right? And like I kind of feel that way here, where you know, maybe like even, you know, we have some single parents, and we've had split members who are like, I was raised by a single parent and I had the most beautiful upbringing and I want them to have that, whereas someone else might not be as comfortable with that. And so we put that choice in their hands, and I think they feel better about it.
And is that how, have you ever encountered any like ethical gray areas with the donation piece specifically? Like, it's coming from like a skeptic's perspective, right? If I hear about the split program, think about the ages at which women are able to donate. And I think about often the cost is prohibitive to many people that would like to opt into a program like this. Or at least freeze their eggs, right? The cost of doing so might be a barrier. And so you think of the split program as a way to kind of get over that hurdle.
Totally.
But then how do you address that?
Like is this coercive?
Directly, but
you can. I've been asked so much more directly than that.
How you would address that concern.
I have been asked that so much more directly. And I like invite the question. I invite, like, I'm here for it. Like, of course we've thought about that, right? And what I say to that is like, in what way is allowing someone to have access to their own eggs and free storage for up to 10 years, by the way, more coercive than paying someone $10,000 to $250,000 for their eggs, right? Like, to me, if we believe that egg donation should exist, which like maybe that's the bigger question. Like, do you think egg donation is coercive in and of itself, right? I think that, or my opinion is that every person, women especially, should have choice over their own body. And if we are educating them and providing them opportunities for informed consent and providing them opportunities to say, yes, this is something I want to do, and doing a psych eval that like confirms that they're of sound mind making that decision and no one is coercing them, then they deserve choice and autonomy over their own body. And I think that anybody who questions whether or not that choice is coercive is like, frankly, paternalistic, right? Like, you just don't believe they have, not you, but they don't believe that they have choice over their own body. And so I think that it gets scary when you're offering someone $250K for their eggs, because that's really hard to say no to. Right?
No.
But access to your own frozen eggs and storing them for free for up to 10 years, to me, is not quite as hard to say no to if you don't want to do it, right? And so we have women who, they actually did a segment on Cofertility on the CBS like morning show, and they spoke with donors and they asked about this question specifically. And one of our split members said to her, it was like, oh yes, I definitely am ready to do this. I want to do this, like no brainer question for her. And then we had another split member who said, it took me a month and a half to get to this answer, and I wanted to be really sure, and I took my time to think about it. And I feel, she was like emotional of how proud she feels that she was able to do this for someone who now has twins, by the way. And every person is different, but I believe they deserve that choice. And if we believe that, again, anybody who wants to be a parent deserves to be a parent, then third-party reproduction needs to exist. And so my goal is to do it in the most ethical, thoughtful way possible that honors the person donating, honors the recipient parents, and most of all, honors the donor conceived person that's born from it. And we pay a lot of attention to that. And there was a study out of Harvard Med School in 2021 that said of the donor conceived people they spoke to, a majority of them felt disturbed that cash was exchanged for their genetics. And so to me, this is like a far more thoughtful approach. And that's what we stand by.
That's amazing. And you've hit on so many points that I think are extremely topical, especially right now.
Yes.
Personal or cofertility views, like we're living in an era where Roe v. Wade has been questioned. We're on a state-by-state system now.
Yeah.
The right to choose is being threatened, quite frankly. It's not supported by the government any longer. Across the board. And so I'd love to know your opinions just about this state of affairs and what it's doing to that concept of giving women the right to choose, giving women that autonomy over their own bodies and their reproductive systems.
I mean, more than anything, it makes me have even more conviction in what we're doing and gives me the the fire under my tush, right? Of like, we got to do this and we have to like grow this company fast. Because I believe that the more people who make this choice now, the better suited they will be in the future. And so it certainly lights a fire under me and my entire team. But it makes me, want to help every founder who's building in this space and to help them figure out like which investors are, want to be on the right side of history and want to invest in women's health and reproductive rights, like companies, right? Like, I think there are so many founders out there that are building for the future of this space, and women's health is just like painfully underfunded. And so I think that it's our companies that are the ones that can create change and who are nimble enough to navigate this climate, right? Like Cofertility as an example, if, in Alabama, there was a shutdown of IVF, right? And we have the option and ability to like rework our cycles, and like there was a hurricane in Florida and we like got our split members on planes and they never disrupted their cycles, right? So like, God forbid something happens in a state that we lose access, like we will still make things happen. And so I think that it's more likely the like scrappy, nimble startups that can navigate these things really quickly and make shit happen when we have to.
Those are incredible stories, by the way.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I wonder how much of this is just more investment and more innovation in the space, and then how much of it we need to rely on some sort of regulatory change, some sort of regulatory support.
Totally both. And I feel lucky that there are a lot of people out there that are working to bring the operators into the regulatory conversations, right? So there's a group that got together this spring that was around like what sort of policy should we be asking for, and what sort of frameworks do we need in place to make it a environment that is friendly for women's health organizations to build and exist. So we're watching closely and trying to like move things on multiple fronts. I think organizations like Resolve that are working to lobby for the right kind of change that doesn't just support people that are looking to build families with fertility challenges, but also LGBTQ families, right? Like, I think, it's wild to me to hear, the king of IVF or our president is pro IVF, which is great. But like, what about the less traditional families, right? Like, I don't really care about access to IVF unless it includes everybody.
Right.
And so that's something that I know Resolve is really fighting for. And we as a company want to like help empower organizations like Resolve to do that on a really large scale.
I think all these macro factors and all these like issues at large are actually a huge benefit to the company too, because you guys really did time it well, whether you meant to or not. Some of it's luck, some of it's just a good sense that this is what the market needs at that given time. And so I do think, I don't know what your take is, but I do think a lot of these factors, both political, regulatory, and just environmental too, like
Yes.
global fertility rates declining. Like
Yeah.
all of that is really a tailwind.
Tailwinds for
your
sure.
business.
Yeah. On the slide it says tailwinds, right? Like absolutely. There was a stat that came out recently that said more women had children this past year in their 40s than in their teens.
Oh my goodness.
And you want to know why? Egg donation, IVF, right? Like assisted reproductive technology, and education for teens, right? Like access to abortion for teens. Those things played a role, and we need to like continue on that trajectory. Like I really hope it doesn't change. So
I will say, it almost feels unfair to women that your peak in your career, your peak in your education, your peak in your fertility all sort of coincides at the same point in your life.
yeah,
And so, like, that ability to give yourself extra time
yeah,
and just extend your reproductive years
yeah.
is really an amazing gift.
That's the word for it. It is a gift, and it kills me that it's just like yet another thing that if you have the privilege of, having 15 to 20 grand laying around, or parents or grandparents who can give that to you, that you benefit from that. Or if you work for a big tech company that gives you that benefit, right? But it's such a small number of companies that offer it. And I hate to see someone who there's like Reddit threads about like which companies offer, egg freezing. Like that should not be the reason why somebody is choosing a job, right? And so I just believe that there's more we can be doing to give people that gift. And that's where Cofertility comes in.
Yes, and I completely understand. I think I have personal friends, I have people in my life that have experienced fertility issues, and I also think there are people that are just choosing to wait to have children and to begin that family planning process, and it is certainly becoming not necessarily the norm, but it's becoming more common now than ever before. I am curious, are there any specific demographics that Cofertility appeals to, whether it's like the types of professions that these women pursue, or like what areas of fields they work in?
One theme that we see is women in healthcare. We know that doctors are twice as likely to experience infertility as the general public. It's wild. They are doing more training, their education is crazy long, they're hard on their bodies, they have student loans, and they're stressed. And that makes sense, right? And so I think that women in medicine are very open-minded about, or like understanding of the risk that they face, and open-minded to the clinical procedure that they'll have to undergo to freeze eggs. And also understand, like, you're donating tissue, right? Like, you are not, it's like a very different choice, I think, when they're looking at it clinically. And so we definitely see a lot of women in medicine. We see a lot of women athletes. I think that's just another area where, someone's physical self plays a role in the length of their career, right? And putting children on hold is something that, happens all too often for women in sports. And so
Physically demanding too.
Crazy physically demanding. And that's actually one of the reasons Maria Sharapova decided to invest in Cofertility.
It's amazing.
She's the coolest.
This brings me to another piece that I was reading about, which is the Level the Playing Field initiative.
Yes.
I would love to hear more about this. I am an ex-athlete, not currently an athlete. Nowhere in the realm of Maria Sharapova. But
if I played soccer in elementary school, I am a former athlete too. But no, you're probably like actually athletic and played like in college or something.
Love lacrosse in college.
Okay. More than I did. More than I did. So Maria, we were put in touch with her. She's an amazing investor. And the first couple of times I met with her, I remember being like completely blown away by the questions she asks and how thoughtful she is about the business. And just like quite honestly like on it more than some other like real VC investors. Yeah, she's amazing. And I think that her like initial enthusiasm about the business really came from there was actually an ASRM like opinion piece about how egg freezing can contribute to gender equality, right? This idea that if women don't have the pressure of their biological clock, they can make decisions about their career and their life in the same way that a man could, right? And so it can contribute to gender equality. And she was like, well, yeah, like in sports especially, right? Like imagine not having that looming over you with like how quickly can I get from here to there and not worrying about that one other piece of it, which is like when am I going to have children? And so she sort of put that bug in our ear about like, well, we should really be thinking about athletes. And then we started to see a number of our split members come from the sports world. So we had professional athletes applying to the split program. We had former college athletes. We had people who just like had sort of devoted their 20s to sport and who were like, okay, I want to keep doing this and I have this break where this is a good time for me to do that, right? Where like they can take hormone injections and not have it be a problem, right? So we started to see that in our own like member community and population. And then I met Alicia Montano, who runs a nonprofit that's now called For All Mothers. And she is a former Olympic runner who is like famous for running pregnant, like total badass.
Amazing.
And she was like so excited about what we were building, and I like love what she does. And she told me that one of the biggest challenges they have is research. And I was like, what? That's like, that seems so easy. And she was like, it's not, you'd be surprised. And so my team and I decided to work on this with her. And Hallie, my co-founder, has, you know, her master's in public health, and this is like very much in her wheelhouse. And so we came up with a study that, or like basically research around like what are the opinions and beliefs of women in sports and how they want to pursue motherhood, and what are the challenges they face around family building and fertility planning and, you know, their earnings and how does it affect their future with their contracts or with their teams or their leagues and different questions. And so we put that together with our medical advisors, and then we got it out to like hundreds of professional athletes. Wow. And, you know, we had the help of we have a lot of, Muse, one of our investors, is very deeply involved in the sports world, as is Next. Lance Armstrong is one of their founders. Like we just got it out to different leagues and teams and just said like, hey, help us help you, right? Like help us get a sense of where you're at. And we published this data as part of our level the playing field with Alicia and her team. And it was amazing to see that, like, I think it's like over 90% of professional athletes like do feel that their careers will be impacted by their family building and fertility plans, and that they don't feel supported by their organization, and that, you know, they don't feel they have access to things like egg freezing. And so we just saw, so that came out in February, and we've had a number of pieces that have come out. And then recently the WTA came out and said, the Women's Tennis Association said that they have new policies around fertility for their players, and that women won't lose their rankings if they take time off for things like egg freezing or embryo freezing. Wow. And so I'm not saying that like our campaign directly was the reason that this change happened, but I think that efforts like this and, you know, awareness and like sending that out and getting it on the radar of these organizations can help enact change and can help bring to bear, you know, just like any sort of policy change or thoughtfulness around it for people. So
maybe it wasn't the direct cause, but I'm sure it
never know.
added to the
Never know.
agenda,
Yeah.
the campaign, like, and the mindfulness
Yeah.
around this topic. It is interesting to me in general, like market awareness, especially for consumer services and products,
Yeah.
is so key in the early days of
Yes.
anyone building in the space.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what amazes me about the strategy you've taken is you mentioned social media influencers, you mentioned famous athletes, like this almost like celebrity led
Yeah.
information dispersion tactic
Yeah.
has been really effective for you all.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
You know, I think that one of the, egg freezing this year was up 40% from the previous year.
Wow.
And that's even with cost being the number one challenge. So egg freezing is part of the like zeitgeist, right? Like people are talking about it. You can say egg freezing and your average person will know what you're talking about, right? Like it has become part of the norm. We have people like Mindy Kaling and Jennifer Aniston and the Kardashians talking about egg freezing. They are saying, do yourself a favor, freeze your eggs, right? Like that's what Jennifer Aniston came out and said. It's amazing to hear that from someone like that using their voice and their platform and the challenges that they faced to like help get it on other people's radars. I think the biggest problem is that it stops short at awareness, right? And so what I think someone like Maria loves is that we're not just stopping at, hey, you should think about egg freezing. It's like, here's a way to make it more accessible. And so I think that that's what helps with these influencers and with people who are willing to talk about it and get it out in the world. It's like, this isn't just, or it doesn't have to be something that only really wealthy people can afford.
Right.
And so I think the taking it that one step further into access is what makes it something that's worth talking about.
Yeah. I think the Jennifer Aniston one particularly was very powerful because she talked about regret.
Yes.
And the fact that she wished she knew more.
Yes.
Back in her late 20s, early 30s when she had the power to control her own family.
And she could have afforded it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I actually was on a panel with Naomi Watts, and she is doing amazing work around menopause right now and perimenopause, which, like, if I wasn't obsessed with building fertility, I'd be obsessed with perimenopause and menopause. Which I don't know what that says about me. But
you're passionate about women's health.
I am. I can't help it. But she told a story on this panel where she was there to talk about menopause, but she was like, I just have to tell this story because Lauren's talking about this.
Right.
Where she was like, I was a very successful actress in my 30s who had the means. Like, I could have afforded to freeze my eggs. And the doctor was like, meh, you don't need to. Wow. And I listened. And she was like, and that's one of my biggest regrets. Right? Like, sure, there is a world where you may not need your frozen eggs. And I actually hope for most women, and I hope for all women. Like, I hope that you never need to use these eggs. How nice would that be, right? If you don't have to go through IVF to fertilize these eggs someday. I really hope that. But the fact that they could be there, like, I meet intended parents every day who come onto Zoom or meet them in person, and they're like, if only this existed 15 years ago. They're like, I wish I had frozen my eggs. Like, I hear the regret literally every day. Or like, oh my God, what a gift for these women. Like, they are so much more excited about egg donation for themselves because they're helping a younger woman put their eggs away for their future. So that regret piece of it can be something that they like take away for somebody else. You know?
It could be a powerful motivator for other people too.
Yeah.
That is very impactful, I think. So I haven't talked about it yet, but I want to get into your personal founder journey.
Sure.
I know, so 2 questions. 1, how did you meet Hallie, your co-founder? And 2, while you were building and founding Uber Health, you had the idea for Cofertility. And I know your journey and story is very personal. Yeah. So to me, it's one of the most impactful and powerful that I've heard.
Oh, wow.
It's really an amazing story. It's like mission align
Yeah.
perfectly syncs with your personal life. And I'm just like so blown away by it. So I'd love if you would share.
Yeah, of course. It's funny because our marketing team has been like on me to do more on social media, and I get it, founder brand, whatever. But so I made a reel, like a 90-second reel of like why I started Cofertility. And my mom called me and she's like, gosh, if only we knew that 8 years would fit in 90 seconds, right? Like when we were living it.
Yeah, that's how social media is.
Oh, right? Like 8 very long years.
I'm sure.
But sure, I'll tell you the whole story. I was at Uber. I joined Uber in 2013. I was in the first like couple hundred employees there. It was like a ride of a lifetime. Saw an opportunity for Uber in the healthcare space. I did our first experiment in healthcare, which was on-demand flu shots, where you could press a button in the app and a nurse would come to you and give you a shot.
Wow.
And I, through that, became Uber's like de facto healthcare person. Like it's very unsexy when you're at Uber to be in healthcare. And so it's like, okay, like no one else cares, so I will.
Right.
And then I saw a study that came out that said millions of people missed a doctor's appointment every year because they don't have access to a reliable ride. I was like, Uber has lots of reliable rides. Like, we got this. And so I put together a pitch deck for a business line called Uber Health that essentially allows healthcare organizations to request rides and deliveries on behalf of their patients. Pitched that in 2017 to our executive leadership team. And while I was building that, we launched in 2018, but a few months after I pitched it, I became a patient myself. I felt a pain in my side and was diagnosed with an incredibly rare abdominal disease. And one of 154 people on the planet to ever get it. I had masses growing everywhere throughout my abdomen and pelvis. And I was told that I would have to have a number of surgeries to remove the disease and that I would likely lose my ovaries in the process. I had to like sign paperwork and like, yes, you can take my ovaries. I should have been asking like, will I live? Which I did. You're right.
Thank God.
But instead I was like, will I be a mom someday? I just like, that's something I always wanted. And they said, actually, one doctor was like, maybe you'll be a unicorn. It's like, well, that's comforting. Not so much. And another one was like, well, if all goes well with your surgeries, egg donation might be your best bet.
Okay.
And so I wasn't ready to have kids. I had like just started dating my now husband, who I can now hear upstairs. But I wanted to know everything I could about egg donation. I'm a planner. So I wanted to know all the things. And I was shocked by what I saw. I could not believe how outdated it was, how antiquated it was. This idea of cash compensation was like very off-putting to me. I was like, oh, this is cringe. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't like that it was anonymous. I just didn't like anything about it. My big sister had just had her second kid, and I was telling her all this, and she was like, Lauren, I would give my left arm for you to be a mom someday. And she's left-handed. So I was like, okay, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And she decided to freeze her eggs and donate them to me in case I needed them someday. And so she did that ahead of my surgeries so that if I woke up and had no ovaries, at least I would know those were there. And she was 34 at the time. So the doctor was like, let's do it now. And I ended up having 3 surgeries, miraculously did not lose my ovaries. Like, still, like, amazing that that's the case. But I did have the gift of frozen eggs. So I got to then make decisions about my career and my relationship without the pressure of my biological clock. And ultimately, I was able to have my kids without using my sister's eggs, which is still, like, total miracle. But the minute I gave birth to my daughter, who, when I met you, she was 6 months old, and now she just turned 4, I knew I needed to build something in this space. I had been at Uber for 8 years, and I just, like, knew that the only thing, like, if I wasn't going to be spending my entire day with her all day, which, like, no shame in that game. I just didn't want that for myself. I wanted to help other people have the same, like, miracle feeling that I had. And so I turned out I am a unicorn, and now I wear my unicorn ring.
Love it.
But I just wanted to build something in this space. And so you asked how I met Hallie. What's interesting is that when I was at Uber, building Uber Health, there were very few like young women building in digital health.
Mm-hmm.
And Hallie had started Rock Health, which was like the first digital health one before digital health was cool. And I'd like to tell her she like made digital health cool.
Mm-hmm.
We like knew of each other from that world. Like we had met at conferences and sort of just like had our eye on each other. Like, yeah, she's doing it, you know, like more of that. And we had talked a couple times and followed each other on Instagram. And someone had told her, I think that I was like thinking about building something, and I don't know exactly like how this unfolded, but I got a DM from her on Instagram that said, "How's fundraising going?" And I was like, I'm not fundraising. Like, I don't even have an idea, but if any of your portfolio companies are hiring, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I just gave notice at Uber. Like I didn't put it on LinkedIn, didn't put it on Instagram. Like, no, I don't know how whatever. So she was like, "You're on the market?" I was like, "Yes." She's like, "What's your phone number?" And she called me, and I remember like coming down the stairs and telling my husband, "Oh my God, Hallie Tecco is calling me right now." And I was actually standing in this very room when on the phone she explained to me egg sharing. And we did not invent the idea of egg sharing. It happens in small pockets all over the world. Like, this clinic will offer, freeze your eggs for free when you donate half of them, or do a cycle, donate a cycle, give us whatever. She was like, that concept is brilliant, but hasn't become the future of egg donation yet because no one has done it at scale. It needs to happen at scale for there to be enough choice for intended parents to find what they're looking for in a donor, because an intended parent wants a donor that's as unique as they are. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I literally was standing right where I'm sitting right now, which is the craziest part, that I just was like, this is it. Like, this is it. And Hallie didn't even know that my sister had donated eggs to me.
Wow.
And so when I told her that, she was like, "Oh my God, like, let's do this together." I was like, "What?" Like, she was like, "You're going to be the CEO. I'll be the chair, and we'll figure it out. And the rest is history."
That is incredible. I mean,
It's not weird.
so insane.
Yeah.
It also feels like it was meant to be.
That's the universe.
Yeah.
I very much believe in it.
I feel like this is like your calling. So
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
as difficult as I'm sure the experiences you went through were.
No, and there's I recently read the book Worthy by Jamie Lima, and she talks about, she says our setbacks are our setups. And I read that and I was like, well, isn't that the truth? Like, for me it really is, and I'm so lucky that I have found an amazing doctor who has been my life partner in my own journey, who like knew how much I wanted to have kids, and he loves Cofertility. He's like so excited about what has come from this. But yeah, I mean, I think that like, and I very much believe that founders have to be like deeply obsessed with the problem they're trying to solve more than anything. Mm-hmm. And I think when you go through something, it's like the only way to like deeply feel the problem.
I totally agree. I think yours is even a more extreme, acute case of that, where it's like you lived it, which is so rare. Like, you can immerse yourself in something intentionally, or it can just happen by chance. And I think your ability to then change your perspective through your experience and kind of create this opportunity for other women and intended parents is so incredible.
Well, it even went further. So after I had my oldest Eden, I wanted to have a second baby, and I had a harder time getting pregnant and staying pregnant this time. And that's called secondary infertility. And a lot of our intended parents come to us because they're experiencing secondary infertility. And I made the decision to go through IVF. And so while building Cofertility, I went through IVF. And so this even went further.
Right.
Another unintended hello universe. Thankfully, I was able to ultimately from one embryo conceive, and now I have the second child. But I got to feel it even more of like, what does it feel like to give yourself those injections, and what does the waiting feel like? And frankly, for me, the waiting, that's the hardest part. But now I can like understand our intended parents even more than I ever imagined.
Yeah, I think that's even more rare. I mean,
Here you go.
you know the people you're working with, the population and problems deeply.
And someday I'll go through menopause, and then I will have to then
We'll have Act 2 for the next company. No, that's
a lot of smart people are building menopause, so
that is just so
Yeah.
incredible. It does seem like, and you and Hallie kind of just stars aligned, right
Oh my
timing for both of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, she is unlike anyone I've ever known. She is just can like zoom in and zoom out on healthcare, and is so obsessed with changing the healthcare landscape. And I feel lucky to do this with her and learn from her, and we complement each other in
Yeah.
ways.
Well, kindred spirits for sure, because it sounds like you also are laser focused on changing the status
Yeah.
quo,
Yes.
changing the healthcare available to
Oh yeah.
women and intended parents. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing alignment of you two as
Yeah.
well.
It's worked out for us.
Is there anything, now that you've been doing this for a couple of years, I guess two things. Is there anything that you wish you had known, and if you had known when you started the business, you would change?
I think there will always be shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? Like, there will always be things that like, oh, I wish we had made a different choice about this vendor, or I wish we made a different choice about that part of our strategy, or I wish we like course corrected sooner, right? I think like so much of what my role is like the knowing the right amount of time to spend money and resources on what, right? And so there are definitely, I can pinpoint like probably 5 off the top of my head. Like, I wish we spent this money differently in this way. And I think the bigger challenge is like getting over it and course correcting quickly. I do this with my team. I'm like, I don't care whose fault it was. Like, let's document what happened. Let's fix it really fast. And then we can figure out how to make sure that we never do that again.
Great.
And so there's a lot of that. And I think that like how long does it take you to forgive yourself is like the bigger question. And so that's really, I think I've come a long way in my ability to like course correct and move on.
Can do it quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I know we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
But this is an amazing conversation. I like to end with, do you have any controversial beliefs or hot takes that are unique to you and your perspective on things? It could be about the business, it could be about life in general.
I think that we touched on it a little bit, but I think falling in love with the problem is the best thing you can do before choosing a new job or deciding to start a company or deciding to like take any like professional lead. And I think that the people who instead are falling in love with the solution are making a really big mistake. And I think that like when you get so attached to a solution or married to a solution or like pumped or hot in the solution, you're setting yourself up to be really inflexible, and you're setting yourself up for disappointment when ultimately the path will most likely change. Right? Like how you get there is never going to look the way you thought it was going to look. But if instead you're like super laser focused on, I don't care what the answer is, but we just have to solve the problem, then you will pleasantly surprise yourself and find much more like contentment in the outcome.
I love that. I think that's really important advice. I'm going to slip in one more question.
Yeah.
when you're pitching VCs, you just also raised a Series A, so
Yes.
congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment, especially in this current fundraising environment.
Yes.
And for a non-AI business.
Yes. And to do it during an election.
Yes.
Where reproductive rights are like straight up on the ballot.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a time.
An added difficulty for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for founders when pitching VCs, or was there anything that worked particularly well for you? First question. And then on top of that, are you noticing any like gender divide when you're pitching VCs? Like, do you notice that female or male VCs understand the pitch and the problem more acutely than the other?
It's interesting. I think for our seed round in 2021, we definitely felt women were very much understanding of what we were doing. It was a very quick, like, get it factor. I think that this most recent round, it's less so about like women or men. I think it was more if somebody could like understand the challenges that people go through to grow their family. And I think even in the last 3 years, the like cultural awareness around fertility challenges and same-sex couples growing their family and things like that has changed. And the conversation around third-party reproduction has changed, right? Surrogacy and people just like seeing it is much more common. And so I felt that a lot of the male VCs were like on it and understanding. And, you know, Next is a great example of that. Both Lance and Jordan, one of the partners there, were like, well, yeah, like literally the question was like, well, how is this not what egg donation is, right? Like they were very understanding. Not every fund is that way. And so I think it's like the advice that I would give it, and one of my other regrets too is like not trusting my gut. Now there are times where I'm like, this is not a full body yes, so I'm not going to do it. But I think with investors, you can sense if they get it in the first conversation. And if they don't get it in the first conversation, it's going to be too long for them to get it. And I would just like cut your losses and move on. But the ones who like get it, you'll feel it and like stick with them. I think the other thing that I learned throughout this process is the later stage fundraising is harder in that there's more data and evidence within your business. And so there's a lot more for them to ask questions about. And so being really prepared to like have all of that information at the ready will make the process go faster. But if you're noticing like multiple investors have asked us about like, what would a Trump presidency mean to Cofertility's business? Like, we wrote a memo that was like, here's 2 pages on like exactly what a Trump presidency would mean for Cofertility. And so the minute I got asked that question, rather than spend like, it's a meaty question, right? So rather than spend 15 minutes of my 30-minute meeting with this investor answering that question, I would say like, I actually prepped a memo on this that I can send to you following the call, but like we're really confident that like a Trump presidency could actually ultimately be not a bad thing. And I would, right after the meeting, be like, here's the memo you asked for. And investors actually, I think, preferred that because it meant that they didn't have to actually like digest it and write it all down and understand it enough to go tell their partners. It meant that they could be like, oh, it's all right here. I can now distill 2 pages. I can either send around this 2 pages with my memo, or I can distill this 2 pages into a paragraph and feel really good about it because I have it right in front of me. So it was like, I hate to say I'm saying this to you, but like the more I could do their job for them.
I was going to say that.
The more I could do their job for them, like the better things went.
Yeah. I'm an investor, but I know the archetype. And doing some of the work is helpful. It also shows that you've thought about that question before it's even been asked. Which is a great thing to see as an investor because it's like you want that founder that has thought about every single angle of the problem they're solving.
Right. Like absolutely not the first time I thought about what this presidency would be, right? And so it just shows that. Totally agree.
So I think that's a great note to end it on. Cool. Fantastic advice.
Yeah.
So much fun talking to
You
you today,
too.
as always.
Yeah.
And thank you again for hosting
I'm
me.
happy to.